Reefer madness that took place way back when continued throughout the entire period from about 1895 onwards. So you can find examples of it in every generation and every decade.
Yeah, I tried. I tried googling it. Like, it's not in a symmetry. I would say that they're all over, even from 1895 to 1938.
The Flexner Report was written in 1910 by a guy named Abraham Flexner. Wrote it on behalf of the Carnegie Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation. And he basically said, well, these eclectic schools of medicine, the herbalists and the non-proprietary medicines, they are dirty. There's dirt. They garden and they get dirt on them, and it's not clean and it's not scientific, and therefore people who give money to herb schools should stop giving it to people who give money to medical schools should stop supporting the herbalists and should just give it to the pills, knives, and needles people. The destruction of the herb schools, that started with the Flexner Report in North America. And then another thing happened here. Have you heard of the Skull and Bones fraternity at Yale?
Oh yeah, that became CIA eventually. We'll talk about
Yeah.
it later. Yeah. So
Yeah, well,
were
this
they?
is 1909 was the first international drug control meeting held in Shanghai. It was basically set in motion by guys from Skull and Bones.
Oh, okay. So were the Skull and Bones already, registered, or
They
like?
were in existence in the 1830s.
Oh
It's
wow.
an old fraternity at Yale. So they put into place the drug control treaties because they were basically founded by drug smugglers.
Who were the key people at that time that put this treaty together?
Well, have you heard of a guy named William Howard Taft? Taft was the only human ever to be both president of the United States and Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States. His father was one of the co-founders of Skull and Bones.
Oh,
And he was also governor of the new U.S. colony of the Philippines, where they first tried out drug prohibition in the 20th century. That was the first place they gave it a try.
in Philippines.
Yeah, basically these guys used reefer madness as a way to justify making it illegal all over the world. Yeah, and that started in 1912 in the second of the International Drug Control Treaty meetings. The Harrison Narcotic Act was put in place by another Skull and Bones guy, who was also another governor of the Philippines. It was very, very
Yes.
funny coincidence there. And there's actually hemp being harvested right on the back of I think it's the 1914 $10 bill, when the international laws against drugs were put into place in the 20th century. First in the Philippines in 1905 by William Howard Taft, who was governor of the Philippines at the time. Then Francis Harrison put together the Harrison Narcotic Act. He was Skull and Bones. Henry Stimson, who had huge influence in U.S. politics for the first half of the 20th century. And then this guy, Elihu Root, who wasn't a Skull and Bones member, but he was a lawyer for a Skull and Bones member. And they set up the international drug prohibition. And in the 1912 International Conference, they started talking about Indian hemp.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, the conference is of the opinion that it is advisable to study the question of Indian hemp from the statistical and scientific standpoint with a view to regulating its misuse, should necessity therefore make itself felt by domestic legislation or by an international agreement. So that's the beginnings, that's the seeds of international hemp prohibition. Detailed look at Skull and Bones and how they set up the international drug control treaties,
treaties.
plural.
So that to convince public, it's easier that okay, it's psychotic, it does this, it does that. But how did they then converted farmers against hemp? Because that was their source of income, right? So that's
Yeah, well, they didn't tell the farmers that they were going to make hemp illegal. And it was made illegal. By the time they realized hemp was made illegal, it was too late. What they did was they called it marijuana and then just made it illegal by calling it marijuana. And then suddenly, oh, you're going to need a tax stamp to grow hemp. And then they stopped handing out any tax stamps. So they kind of did it in a very sneaky way. Yeah, when they talked about making cannabis illegal, they only talked about making marijuana illegal. They didn't mention they were also going to make hemp illegal.
okay.
So by the time people realized hemp was also going to be illegal, it was too late. It was illegal.
Wow.
Influence in setting up the first international drug control treaties.